There is a state in America where a barbecue argument became serious enough to reach the halls of government. A place where two regions separated by less than 100 miles have spent generations fighting over one question: what is the real North Carolina barbecue? North Carolina, a state stretching from the Atlantic coastline to the Appalachian Mountains, where an invisible food border divides communities, families, and even generations. On one side, eastern North Carolina. On the other, the Piedmont. And for locals, this line on the map is not just geography, it is identity. Because in North Carolina, barbecue is not simply something you eat, it is history, it is heritage, and sometimes it is politics. The oldest tradition begins in the eastern part of the state, a style its defenders proudly call the original North Carolina barbecue. Here, the rule is simple: whole hog. The entire animal is cooked slowly over wood fire for hours until the meat becomes tender enough to fall apart. Then it is chopped and finished with a sauce that looks almost too simple to be important: vinegar, salt, pepper, nothing else. No thick tomato base, no sweetness, just sharp, spicy, and smoky flavor that cuts through the richness of the pork. For Eastern barbecue believers, the sauce is not a topping, it is a seasoning. A final touch added after generations of tradition. The plate usually comes with another regional signature: white slaw, cabbage mixed with mayonnaise, creating a cool contrast against the acidic vinegar sauce. But this story goes back much further than modern barbecue restaurants. Centuries before North Carolina became a state, indigenous communities were already using slow cooking techniques over open flames. When European explorers arrived on these shores, they documented cooking methods involving wooden frames and fire. The Spanish had already used the word barbacoa after seeing similar Caribbean techniques. That word traveled across oceans and generations, eventually becoming the barbecue known today. In eastern North Carolina, that tradition survived almost unchanged. Places like Skylight Inn in Ayden, opened in 1947, became symbols of this old-school method. Whole hogs, wood cooking, hand chopping. A building shaped like the United States Capitol, almost like a declaration that this place considered itself the unofficial capital of Eastern barbecue. Further west, another tradition was quietly developing. Around 90 miles away in the Piedmont region, barbecue was changing, not because people wanted to create a rivalry, but because geography, culture, and practicality pushed it in another direction. Around the early 1900s, barbecue stands in Lexington started doing something different. Instead of cooking the entire hog, they focused on pork shoulder. It was easier to prepare, easier to serve, and easier for growing roadside barbecue businesses. Then came another major change: a new sauce, a red sauce, still vinegar-based but with ketchup added for color, slight sweetness, and a deeper flavor. This became Lexington-style barbecue. The meat was usually chopped or sliced shoulder, covered with that reddish vinegar sauce, creating a completely different experience from the Eastern tradition. The sides changed too. Eastern barbecue had white slaw. Lexington developed red slaw, cabbage mixed with the same barbecue sauce, creating a sweet, tangy, and spicy companion to the pork. Food historians argue this style was influenced by German settlers in the Piedmont region, whose ancestors brought sweet and sour flavor traditions from Europe. A Carolina version of an older German idea: two regions, two sauces, two identities. And by the middle of the 20th century, the rivalry was permanent. Families argued about it, restaurants competed over it, and eventually the debate reached the state government. In 2007, the Lexington Barbecue Festival wanted official recognition, but giving it a title that sounded like it represented all North Carolina barbecue would immediately create another fight. So lawmakers created a careful compromise. The festival was officially recognized as the Food Festival of the Piedmont Triad region, not the official barbecue festival of North Carolina, not a declaration that one style was better. Just a geographic title, a political way of saying everyone can keep arguing. The state is staying out of it. But North Carolina's food identity does not stop at barbecue. The same state that fights over pork also created one of America's most unique soft drinks, Cheerwine. Born in 1917 during a nationwide sugar shortage when soda companies were struggling to maintain sweetness, a North Carolina businessman experimented with cherry flavoring. The result was a deep red carbonated drink. The name came from two things: cheer, for the happiness it created; wine, for the color. Despite the name, there is no alcohol. The drink became a North Carolina icon and remains one of America's oldest continuously family-run soft drink brands. And then there is Krispy Kreme, another North Carolina creation. Started in Winston-Salem in 1937, the company turned a simple glazed donut into a global symbol. For many North Carolinians, these foods are not just products, they are memories. They appear at celebrations, gatherings, and community events. They represent home. Then there is one of the state's most unusual regional foods, liver mush, a dish that outsiders often question before trying. Made from pork liver, head meat, and cornmeal, shaped into a loaf and sliced before being fried. In western North Carolina, especially around Shelby and Hickory, liver mush is not strange. It is tradition, a reminder of old hog-killing practices where every part of the animal was used. Similar to scrapple in Pennsylvania, it became a breakfast staple for generations. North Carolina also has its own deep connection with pimento cheese, a southern classic made from cheddar, mayonnaise, pimentos, and spices. At family gatherings, tailgates, and holiday tables, it appears almost like a required tradition. The state also claims its version of Brunswick stew, a thick mixture of pork or chicken, vegetables, tomatoes, beans, and corn slowly cooked until rich and heavy. In Eastern barbecue restaurants, it often arrives beside the main plate as an essential companion. And then there are hush puppies, small fried cornmeal bites that complete the barbecue experience. Almost every North Carolina barbecue plate agrees on one thing: the hush puppy belongs there. Along the coast, another food tradition developed: Calabash seafood. Named after the small coastal town of Calabash, this style focuses on lightly battered fried seafood, shrimp, fish, oysters, scallops, a thin, crispy coating that keeps the seafood delicate instead of heavy. The technique became famous far beyond the town that created it, but the biggest story of North Carolina food was never really about who had the better recipe. It was about people, migration, geography, and the ingredients available at a certain moment in history. Eastern barbecue came from whole hog traditions shaped by centuries of coastal influence. Piedmont barbecue came from a different community, different resources, and different flavors. Both are real, both are historic, and neither side has ever completely accepted the other, which is exactly why North Carolina remains one of the few places where a barbecue argument became part of the state's identity. A place where pork is not just food, it is a story, a border, a tradition, and a debate that has lasted for more than a century.